Let down like a punching bag for you to beat. Somebody stop this fucking clock. It ticks faster every day. My body's growing tired, and my hair is thin and gray. I was hoping for some silence to get my thoughts straight, but my mind won't stop shouting on the other way, on the other way. If only the North Star would shine a little light when I'm feeling low, and I'm stuck outside at night when I don't know which way to turn. This way, that way, will I ever learn what you? Well, I was born to love, but every heart I touch breaks. I give all that I can give, never knowing how much I take. I make promises to myself, and I know I can never keep, but I refuse to sit here and regret anything. If only the North Star would shine a little light when I'm feeling low, and I'm stuck outside at night when I don't know which way to turn. This way, that way, will I ever learn what you? Wishing upon stars falling from the sky, fall from the sky, glimpse a sparkle before they die, burn out and die, crash through the earth, crashing down, crumbled before
And you'll have to forgive my not so masterful fade out on that awesome tune by Madam Radar. Hi, everybody. You're going to excuse a little bit of coughing right now because we are cooking carne guisada and it's going to be stewing all day. And because of that, the air is a little jalapeno-y in here. But it's part of that unprofessionalism that I'm told makes me so lovable. This is 20 Question Tuesdays, and I'm your host, Jeff Plankenhorn. And for those of you who don't know, first of all, thanks for having us on Austin Music Television. And, excuse me, we really, really love it. Thank you, Sheila Steele, for that. And babe, can we open a door?
Sorry.
That's okay. Woo! Hot peppers. Anyway, basically, I started this out early on in the pandemic, and just turned on the camera and started asking questions, and it was really beautiful. Everybody started coming around, and people started asking about songwriting and guitar playing and all sorts of beautiful things, and big artists would come on and ask questions, and people who don't know anything about music would come on and ask questions, and it was just pretty lovely. Anyway, shortly after that, Sheila Steele asked me if I would put it on Austin Music Television, which is where we are now. And we take questions from the audience via the interwebs on Twitch, Twitter, and YouTube, and Facebook on all my little channels. And it's pretty beautiful because my questions are not nearly as interesting as the questions that you guys come up with, and it's pretty fun. Just to add a little bit more housekeeping real quick, let's see. Tonight I have my usual From Here to There show where I do my own music. My new Patreon songs came out this morning, which is really, really awesome. And I have a new playlist on Spotify, and it features Madame Radar as well as so many other artists I love. I'm putting people that I know and people that I love next to big stars and throwing them all on one playlist. It's roots rock, it's Americana, it's soul, and I hope that maybe we'll put that in the comments sometime today as well, so we can try and get everybody's Spotify numbers up a little bit. Good for all of us. Oh, now we get some great questions as well. It's a good thing I wrote down a bunch before the show. Without further ado, I'm going to introduce Kelly Green right now. Hello!
Hi.
How are you?
I'm wonderful. Thanks for having me.
I really, really enjoy this show. It's super, super fun, and I'm super glad. You have come a couple of times and been kind of in the... Oh, that clicky thing is happening.
I know. I've done nothing, so...
We don't know what... I'm sure you haven't. We're just going to deal with it and just kind of go on because
If I turn my head
whatever.
this way, it'll stop.
That's all it is, yeah.
Oh,
We'll
look at
shake
this
it or
one.
something. We'll give it a good Fonzie.
Yeah.
Here, you know what, too? Maybe it's mine. I'm going to try Sans... No, I can't do that. Anyway, this'll be fine. I've got some great questions already for you, Kelly. And I know that, for those who don't know, for the longest time it was the Texas KGB, which was the Kelly Green Band. You being Kelly Green. And as more things started to happen and the rest of the band, you kind of, well, explain to me why the change to Madame Radar.
Yeah, well, the band started 9 years ago, and it was just myself, my husband, and we were kind of doing like a little trio thing with a friend of ours, and that band started kind of from and kind of just like kind of it did out basically. So we started our own little trio, and that was great. And then we had rotating members, and this went on for years. We were trying to find our sound. Eventually, my brother joined on drums, and we were like, okay, this is a cool little thing we have going. And then a couple years ago, my bass player Violet, we put out an ad on Craigslist, Facebook, just asking around town. She responded through Craigslist, and when she joined the band, it really changed our dynamic, and it changed our sound. And we had already kind of been thinking like maybe this is a different band, even though it has a lot of the same members from forming the Texas KGB, but it just kind of has evolved. And during the same time, the studio to record a new album, and during that time, political, politics, I guess, running through all of this, and we were getting some negative feedback on the KGB. So we were like, we're putting out a new album, and we're not huge. So if we're going to do this, now is kind of the time, new album, new photos, new faces, new songs, and it just felt right. We went through like 600 different band names, and they were all terrible before we landed on Madame Radar. And I don't know, it was just partially new members, partially politics, and it's already hard enough to sell your music or sell your, your product without adding something else that makes it more difficult. We found trying tour like KGB was not cool everywhere.
What's really interesting is I never actually thought about that. Like, I knew that there was a more focus on the other members of the band kind of pushing forward and doing more, and Violet was doing more as far as like singing and writing and stuff like that. but I didn't even think to myself, maybe it's just because, I like humor. Just like I didn't think KGB was necessarily. I was just like, wait, it's Kelly Green Band, and like,
It's
how
me. I always
cool
thought of it as
is
that
that?
too. But
It was just
some
kind of
people were
fun
not.
loving.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, whatever. Some people are just not cool. But, branding is really really tough. I mean, that's
Yeah.
why everybody knows I chose the name Plankenhorn. Cuz
Yeah.
I just wanted a stage name that,
See, we thought
dripped
about
from the tongue.
calling ourselves Jeff Plankenhorn, and then we thought maybe it would
Did
get
you?
confusing. Yeah,
Yeah, you
that
would
was
get
really one of
confused. You would get confused with my tens of fans.
my.
Um but anyway, okay, enough of that. Sorry. I'm gonna just jump right into some questions because I love what people ask. First of all, yes, please ask about my wife, Daktari needs more Donnie, and that's funny. Oh, Kate Howard, great question. Kate, you always come with these awesome questions. What was the most helpful piece of advice you've ever gotten about performing?
To be
What a
myself.
great question.
Yeah.
Huh?
To be myself 100%. That is,
Mm.
when you're a musician and you're kind of finding out who you are or what you have to represent, I feel like you get inspired by a lot of other performers. And it's easy to kind of just like take one of their sticks and be like, hey, I'm doing the Ted Nugent thing, or hey, I'm doing, whatever, insert artist here. And for me, I just wasn't really sure like what I wanted to be because I grew up on a lot of like 80s rock and roll growing up and listened to that. And then in contrast to that, like a lot of Stevie Ray Vaughan. I was born in Florida, raised in Georgia, and I had a lot of influences from both of those places too, but kind of picking my own character and going, well, who is that? And what does that person look like? And just finding out how to be authentic, still be inspired by, because how can you not be inspired by other musicians?
Well, yeah, and how can you also not be inspired by lots and lots and lots of different genres? I think we live in a different era where people don't just pick one
Yeah.
and go with it and only. I don't know anyone who just listens to what they do.
Yeah.
How
Yeah, I kind of
boring
listen
would
to a lot
that
of
be?
things I don't.
Yeah, right. Well, that kind of jumps into another question right now too, and maybe I'm jumping too quick, but what genre do you love but not play? And that's from Steve.
Hi, Steve Young. That I definitely 80s rock. Like I grew up, I'm a big Kiss fan. Like I'm part of the Kiss Army, and like some of my favorite bands are all from that genre, I guess, because my dad was like a rock and roller, so I grew up on a lot of those tunes. And
My first LP was Destroyer.
nice, yeah, I'm a true
I
Kiss.
think it was 4.
I came to the realization Kiss was my first concert. It was Kiss and Aerosmith. So that to me was already like, wow, this is just talk about performers. But they kind of get the rap for being like the makeup joke band. I get it, you know what I mean? Because they are. But at the same time, one of my favorite albums by them is Kiss Unplugged. And there's something about just hearing the real musicianship stripped from the makeup and hearing the harmonies and the really great just melodies that they put together. It's honestly, they're some fantastic musicians. So
yeah, but anybody who knows you would. I think anybody. I'm sorry. I should apologize early on in the show. This always means I'm gonna interrupt a little bit, so I apologize. But we, I don't think maybe people would be that surprised because there's a lot of rock in what you do guitar wise, and there's a lot of drive and stuff too to what you all do as a band. Although I will say, with listening to the new one, like the peaks and valleys, do you feel like there's a little bit more peaks and valleys with like the difference between the new tune Butterscotch, which we were listening to on the way in the countdown, or something like Carolina? Like I feel like there's a little bit more peaks and valleys now. You guys are kind of spreading your creative wings or something.
Absolutely. I think this album is probably the best representation of us to date. Because obviously you're ever evolving and growing. I feel like this was the first time we really collaborated on a lot of tunes and would help kind of produce each other's songs and go, wow, have you thought about this? Have you thought about that? And so it's very cohesive and done together. And Gordy Quist, I have to thank him a lot. Gordy Quist from the Band of Heathens.
From Band of Heathens.
And he was just absolutely fantastic to work with. We learned so much working with him. I think he really helped kind of hone our sound. And since quarantine, it's it's even further into that because we all moved to the same apartment complex. We can knock on each other's doors, which is,
Yeah, I was going to ask about that. Your guys' pod, you were kind of one of the first bands I saw that really had a great pod, of like, well, we can be together and we're, being socially distant, but we're also like writing
Yeah.
together, doing shows together. We're all right here and it's safe, which we have to stress right now because there's a lot of people out there that still aren't taking it seriously, and there's a lot of lives to be saved if we do take it seriously.
Yeah, I'm in the radar room right now, and I have lived here since March. But that's so great because the 2 days before they did the lockdown in Austin, we moved into the apartment complex. So we were just planning on being together because we really, like, we're a band. We're not like so-and-so and whoever's, which is totally cool. But some of my favorite bands are so-and-so and whoever's, but we wanted to be like kind of like the Eagles or like a Fleetwood Mac, which is way harder to sell. But for me, it brings me, I'm a teammate. I love being a part of a team. Being Batman, but I also love being Robin. So I really wanted a band, and like we play together, we work out together, we do everything together. We're a family.
Say anybody who follows anybody, I'm interrupting again. Here we go. If anybody who follows any of your socials, and I follow like all your guys' socials, right? And just because I'm kind of like a fan, and there's such a cross. You can really tell. As an older cat, which I am, seeing a band be a band is always super inspiring for me, and I'm always just like, there just aren't enough like bands with camaraderie around anymore. And you could see it as you go through like your socials, whether it's Insta or Facebook or whatever, that you are,
It's hard
so
to
hey,
it's hard to people.
What's that?
Especially creative people. We're such an interesting breed of people, and everyone in my band is also artists. So they're like, everyone's doing art, they're coming in, they're doing music. And that's such a hard thing to harness and have people move forward with one collective thought. I don't know how we accomplished it. And we've been grouped now with the same members for a little over 4 years. And it's been trying at times. It's kind of like a marriage. You really have to sit down, you have to communicate, you have to talk. And it's also like the most rewarding, great thing I've ever done in my life. And I'm so thankful for every single teammate I have, and just, I don't know, being able to work together and know each other and understand, like, oh, I understand you're in a bad mood right now, so I'll handle it like this, because you get to know each other in a way that, and rehearsing and stuff. I always joke, like, rehearsing is the quickest way to break up a band. And when we first started rehearsing,
that's funny.
Really, the first year it was like, wow, we would almost get in fights because you don't want your peer to tell you like you're doing something wrong. And it took us over a year really to find out like how to handle those dynamics, because my brother, who's our drummer, and Violet are both teachers. They went to school, and Jace, my husband, and I are both very self-taught. I've taken 5 lessons ever in my life, and that was at 27 years old from Wayne Sutton, from Pike and Sutton, because I just respected him a lot, and I just
incredible guitar player.
Some more vocabulary in my guitar, and I learned a shitload from him. Can I cuss? I'm sorry.
You're sorry.
I'll shock you.
We won't notice.
But, yes, I learned a ton from him. But yeah, I don't know. Basically, just being all together, cohesive, and learning how to work together is a great team.
I feel too that sometimes when bands are like all theory people, you don't have as much balance as you do when one person comes from an ear place and one person comes from a little bit more of a technical thing. And I also I love what Warren Hood said about this, because for years and years and years, those of us who kind of started by ear would always kind of say, well, that guy's got a little too much theory, or that guy is, that gal is really practiced, but just doesn't have feel, And Warren was like, I think that it's true that the people who learn theory could probably use a little bit more, ear and more soul. He's like, but I think some of the people who learn by ear could use a little more theory too.
Yeah.
And it made me laugh the same way, because I was like, okay, you're 15 years younger than me, and you just dropped some knowledge, and you're so good at what you do. And he's such a player that
That's fantastic.
He plays really soulful, just like his pops. But if I ask him in the middle of a song, hey, what chord is that? He'll be like, oh yeah, it's B minor 7, because he knows the vocabulary and stuff, and it's good for that. um, but you know, like you said, there's so many other dynamics with a band as far as like trying to put something forward and being able to live with people, and because you're living with them, you
Yeah.
know.
Well, actually, before March, we had a band house and we were all living together. So it was like, this was like our way of being like, let's
Almost too
all
much.
grab space. And
Yeah.
it's like, I open the door and I go, knock, knock. Hey, let's do this.
Yeah. What a beautiful thing that is. I remember having a time when I had a friend who lived upstairs from me long before I got married and stuff, and he was like a lighting director, and he was really really good at lights, and he was in the rock and roll band on the bus with me. And I went upstairs to his place one time in this apartment, and I said, "What's this?" And he's like, "Oh, that's my poetry book. You don't want to look at that." I went, "Yes, I do."
Yes, I do.
And then, yeah, yes, I do. And I was like, these look like songs. And he said, really? And I said, yeah. And then we started writing songs together. And to be able to have somebody that you can call or can knock and go, hey, what do you think about this? And they either go, meh, or they go, yeah. Either way, they've just helped me a ton.
Yeah, during especially this, the whole COVID quarantine isolation thing, it's been invaluable. I don't know. I don't know what I would do, especially Violet and I are both in Bruce Hughes' writing group. So
Oh,
we,
those things are so hard for me.
You know what? At first, I kind of was like, this is a lot to keep up with, but I've written so many songs that I never would have penned if I didn't have like a deadline. Like he says, like, the best way to do this is a deadline. And that is true. There's something about knowing like, oh, I have to have this turned in, and I do my best. There'll be times it's like I'll do a month straight and then I'll miss 2 weeks and then I'll feel guilty and then I'll come back in. But written some great songs, and Violet and I will kind of co-write and work on that together, especially if one of us gets stuck. It's like, hey, do you just want to like team up this week and knock it out? And that's been really cool, like learning it in a different way to go, hey, let's create a song together. Because a lot of times like we'll all individually write our own things and bring them together. And Violet's really great about writing songs for other people or writing songs with group vocals and stuff like that. And that's something I'm really learning how to do now, especially being in a band that is a band. It's like, well, how can we all contribute to this where it's like everybody has their little moment to shine? And
just like anything, yeah. Well, and just like anything else, I believe that's a skill. Writing with other people gets better the more you do it.
Yeah.
Some people you click with, some people you don't. There's people that I love their music and we just can't write together.
Yeah.
And there's people who I'm like, man, it really stinks I can't write with that guy because he's got hits.
Yeah.
And then there's other people where I'm just kind of like, it just naturally happens. I wrote a couple of tunes this month with David Grissom, and it's just easy. It's easy, like he just has so many great ideas. And I also write a lot with Scrappy Judd Newcomb. Now those are very different cats.
Yeah.
One of the things I love writing with Scrappy is a legal pad acoustic guitar kind of writer. And I am every tool of technology is available. I may have a keyboard, I may have a mandolin, I may use the thesaurus.
Also, acoustic guitar writer.
Sometimes those are my favorite to write with because I just grab stuff out of them. They'll be like, I think I want to say something that's kind of like this, and I'm like, that's it. And then we just write it down before they even think.
Yeah.
And I kind of feel like, sorry if I clapped in the mic, I feel like I'm being the scribe. But I'm like, who cares? If I'm just helping them pull it out,
yeah,
great, we
that's
got
really
it.
what it is, though. I feel like songs they just exist like right about here, and every once in a while it'll kind of rain on you, and you're like, oh, just like get it while it's.
You're like, ooh, thanks.
Yeah.
That's I've said it like 15 times on this show, but Kate Howard hipped me to the writer from Eat, Pray, Love, and what she said she was interviewing Tom Waits, and he said, yeah, I was driving down the highway in LA, and I was.
The time.
I love this story. He's driving down the highway, and then he's like, gets his song idea, and he doesn't have a piece of paper, he doesn't have anything to write on, and he doesn't know what to do, and he just looks up at the sky and goes, "Can't you see I'm driving?"
I heard you tell this story, and it like blew my mind. I was like, that is.
I love it so much.
It's honestly, it's one of my favorite stories. I think I've told it like 7 times since I heard
Yeah,
you say it.
we should have Kate Howard because everybody is so good about putting stuff in the Lady D and everybody's so good about putting stuff in the comments. Kate, if you don't mind, put that TED talk with the writer of Eat, Pray, Love. She's got some really, really great insights on writing, and I think it transfers whether you're a musician or a creative writer or whatever you do. I've got to get some more questions because I'm talking too much. There's some really, really, really good questions on here. Okay, so we got that one, we got that one, we got that one. Randy asks fingers or picks, but you're kind of a both kind of gal. Do you do a little bit of hybrid?
I do. You know what? I prefer a pick if I'm gonna like jam with someone. But if I'm sitting at home, a lot of times I'll practice without a pick because I've dropped them and not been able to find them. And it's like, oh, I have one pick on me. You know, when you join somebody on stage. So for me, I like to be able to do what I want to do, regardless of what I have available. But if I have to pick, I'll probably go pick.
Yeah, yeah. There's something about the drive of it, but it's just kind of whatever works at the time. I think
Yeah,
we
yeah,
both-
for sure. There's some songs that I do like, a lot of finger picking on where I, you know, a pick would just be in the way. But there's other songs where it's like I'll hold my pick 17 different ways or put it in my hand, then use my fingers.
Right, or do this thing or something,
Yeah,
or like,
yeah, literally, like people think
yeah, we got to do
like, no.
we got to do whatever works.
Yeah.
You know. Thanks everybody for being here. If you didn't already know, I'm gonna put this up. This is right. This is a website where you can find out more about Madame Radar, and I also highly recommend following the link to Spotify and checking out their new album as well. And yeah, we played a little bit of it before the show, so if you want to go back and listen to it later, these are always archived. I leave them up. Oh, looks like Danielle may have already found it and put that in the YouTube comments. Ooh, Kim Taylor has a great question. Do you plan on putting out a new album soon since you've been writing so much material? Now, I've noticed on your socials that some of this has been kind of a solo exploration, and everybody deserves that too. You know, like I love being in the Resentments, but I love doing my own thing. Now, is the solo stuff that you've been working on?
Yeah, for sure. We're gonna put out a new band album. We're gonna go back in and record with Gordy. But I have been working a lot on some solo stuff, partially thanks to Bruce Hughes for just inspiring me to continue writing. And I really tapped into
With the songwriter game.
I really tapped into the songwriter in myself. Before I was definitely a performer, musician, singer, kind of in that order. Quarantine, I realized that when I didn't have a big stage where I could run and jump and, you know, flip my hair and slide on my knees, and when I didn't have that space to really be a performer, I realized like how much I was actually lacking in my musicianship. And I've always felt really confident on guitar. I started when I was 6 years old, but singing gave me such stage fright that I almost wasn't a musician. Something about singing I just was not comfortable with, and I'm really over the last few years learning how to use my voice. And when I first started, I didn't really have like, you know, a good control, so I would be a shouter a lot. I'd do a lot of like, I wouldn't do Janis Joplin songs, but I had like a kind of tenacity to the, you know, like, hey, let me.
Yeah, a little rasp.
But I injured my voice, not knowing really how to control it, or, you know, and then it got scary. Like, oh no, I think I actually do want to be a singer. I need to rein this in and really treat it like an instrument, because you can't put your voice away at the end of the night. Like, you know, anytime you're talking or shouting or having a good time, you know, smoking a little or, you know, partying, whatever it is, that's damaging. And I got a little scared, like, oh no, like, am I going to have longevity with this? Because I want to be a singer, I want to be a songwriter. And so lately I've really been focusing on how I can find how to use my voice in a way that I can have longevity. And it's been interesting. Definitely learning like how to use this instrument. So I that's one thing I always love your guitar playing. Like, holy crap, you are a phenomenal singer.
Oh,
and the
geez,
hands, like, it's unreal. I was making my mother-in-law listen to your stuff earlier. I was like, no, like, I know he's a good guitar player, but listen. And I want that same thing for myself.
Wow. First of all, thanks very much. As any musician that we know, it's awful to try to take a compliment, but I will say thank you. And I came to singing first. I was really lucky. I started in church when I was a little kid, and I think a little bit of the broken home thing. I got a lot of applause when I was like starting to sing, and it kind of made me feel good, making other people feel good, and I've definitely I'll tell you this though, as far as taking care of your voice, for the very first time in my life, I'm at the ripe age of 47, by the way. Um, for the very first time in my life, I've had trouble with my voice, and it's always been a rock, and it's always been very, very like I'm super, super comfortable, and I've taken lessons and stuff when I was a kid, and studied with opera singers a little bit, and learned control, and learned about placement and things like this that you learn to keep your voice proper. But I think maybe like being in this small place and not a lot of fresh air in here when I'm singing, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And maybe just because of my age, I can't get those high notes like I used to. I'm finding that for the first time, I can't just let it go. I can't just.
Those are scary moments. Like finding ways to adapt, and sometimes it's changing the key of a song that you've sang 400 times. And like, I always I hate that, but I'm like, hey, if it's gonna make the best product in the end. But sorry, we have leaf blowers today, and I don't know if you can hear that or not.
Oh, don't worry about it. I think we can hear them, but just tiny bare. I'm telling you, it's that little bit of unprofessionalism that makes this show so lovable. I usually joke with my friends.
With Jeff right now.
Don't you know I'm on a show right now? No. I'm sure my dogs will have WrestleMania any minute, because that's what we call it when they go nuts. Not a worry at all. Yeah, taking care of your voice is something that I thought that I just took for granted, because I thought, well, I know how to sing, I don't get tired, and it does catch up with you, and you do have to take care of it. And I mean, I'll be on from here to there, doing my thing, and I'll be like, whoa! Oh, this is what I was going to say. I was in the studio with Miles Zuniga, and he was Miles is from Fastball and the Resentments, and he was co-producing an album of mine. He said, "Are you sure you want to do it in that key? It sounds like you're pushing a little bit." And I was like, "Oh no, man, I got this." Oh my God, I wish we would have put it a whole step lower. Because now, like 5 years later, I'm like, why did I do that to myself? Was it really worth it? It wasn't. It's just like, no. And I've learned the lesson now that I want music to be playing. I want it to be play. I don't want to be working music, and the more joyous it can be, sometimes you just got to pull it down a little bit.
Yeah, yes, that's something I'm learning now. I'm definitely that's where I'm at in my music career. Is going, okay, let's fine tune some stuff. Let's figure out what really works. Longevity is my favorite word when it comes to music, because it's like I knew from the time I was 5 years old I wanted to be a musician. I started playing guitar at 6. I started being a performer at 16, and at 21, I quit any resemblance of a job, and I allowed my guitar to make me the money, because I love it, and this is what I want to do forever. But I want to do it forever, and I don't, I'm 30 years old now, and it's like, okay, I'm realizing like there's a lot to being a full-time musician.
Well, I've been so lucky to learn from the people who came before me, and I'm sure you're doing the same thing with the people around us. Sometimes being a lifer in music means just making the decision to do it. And you're going to do it, and if you're going to do it, you're going to do it. And I used to joke, we used to call people who would just kind of just try music out. We used to say, oh, that person's just a tourist. Just so mean, and it's just like, don't do that, or something like that. But the truth is, I have found many musicians who don't do it for a living that believe in it just as much.
It's because it's hard to do it for a living. A lot of people have families they take care of. I have 2 dogs that like to eat also, but it's not as much responsibility as say like a child. It's knowing there's never a guarantee.
No, we got plants and dogs.
Yeah, exactly.
Plants and dogs. Plants need a little love, and the dogs need some salmon cookies, and that's about it, And thankfully, my wife is there to cover the heavy lifting of that stuff, especially with the plants and the dogs. Okay, some more questions. Some more really, really great questions here. Dale Hudson, I really like this question a lot. If you could change one thing about the music industry, what would it be? I think on that
Maybe
for a minute, because I don't know.
You know what? I think if I had to think of the first thing in mind, I would say that I wish the music was more about the music than the business.
Mm.
Because I feel like
Believe
there's
you.
so many incredible musicians that I love that I'm like, how are you, you playing this same bar on a Tuesday? Because people that have tried, not just like, oh, I just enjoy staying in my town and doing my, 6 little cubby holes, or like I'm talking like people that have made an effort and not a success, even though they are just as talented as anybody that you would run across.
Right.
And for me, it's just like, maybe not good looking, or maybe they're not weird looking enough, or whatever, maybe they just didn't meet
Held
the
them
right
back.
person. Maybe they missed that one opportunity.
Didn't
But when
market
I see-
themselves well.
Yeah, there's times that it's like, wow, I wish that this job was a little more like, wow, if you try, like, you can make your living, you can be successful. Because there's especially some people I grew up with that I looked up to hardcore, that really inspired me and taught me a lot about music, that are still doing the same stuff. And it's like, wow, I wish you so much success. And it's just like, it's just not going there for you. And the older they get, they're finding it's just harder, especially when it comes to like social media. It's like we were talking earlier about Spotify. It's like, why are those numbers important? I don't know, but they are. Somebody cares. And
Yeah, they care.
I'm such an old school person that is like, but like I really hate social media. I hate the internet, but I find that it is a necessary tool to do what we do. How else do you tell people? I guess without handing out flyers and going person to person, which save a tree.
Doesn't really work anymore, But that's a really, really good point. I wish the music business was more about the music and not about the business. Is a pretty incredible way to say it. That gets the point across. It's always been the thing that there's a number of people who make more money than us, who make money off of us.
Yep.
But we get to do it for a living. Now, the one thing that I can say that gives me hope, this month, I was kind of writing some stuff that was inspired by the late Ian McLagan. And I was really, really digging hard into Faces, really, really digging hard into it. And one thing that Scrappy told me was he got done playing a club one night. And he said, Scrappy, he's like, this is it. He's like, I've done the stadiums, I've done this, I've done that. He's like, for me, playing in a loud bar where people are having a good time, I don't care if they're talking, I don't care if they're dancing. He's like, this is it. Now, he kind of defined his own idea of what success was. And I think that's kind of vitally important, too, because my success, if I sit here and, compare myself to anyone who's my age, it's probably not going to go very well.
That's another valuable piece of advice I've learned being a musician, is to not compare yourself to other people. I do compare myself to myself. I'm like, what best version of myself can I be? And that seems to work. It's like you always wish success for your peers and the people that are doing what you're doing, because if they can do it, then you can do it. And it's like, hey, it's another win for the team. But there's definitely like, it's a process. I would just say that I would never get jealous of another musician's successes, or just go, like, how do you do that? Like, what did you do to make that happen? There's always a level of curiosity. And I am a competitor. I do love team sports, but I also love healthy competition.
Sure.
Where it's not like a negative thing that someone's doing something. It's like, okay, you did it, so.
Yeah, I don't mind being pushed. Yeah. And I think that some of the songwriter game is good for that. It just kicked my butt. Hey, once during the show, I just want to mention that whenever I have a guest, this is what we do, and we are underemployed musicians, so we do appreciate it. We split the tips, and this is how you do it. So I'll split tips with Kelly today. Just wanted to say that one time during the show. And
thanks, Jeff.
Oh, this is just so cool. I'm so glad to be doing these. I always learn something and have fun, and who knew? Who knew I'd stumble into a little format that was fun. With regards to what was I gonna say? Oh, there's so many great comments right now too. Alyssa says, "Go Kelly, I'm so proud of you." And I know we're having a little bit of audio interference, you guys, but I'm on Vancouver Island, and I don't know if it's the Canadian internet or... No, I'm just kidding. But for whatever reason, we're just going to roll with it, okay? Because we want to make sure we just keep going. It's the deal, They keep working on these apps. Every time I open it, something new. So who knows which side it's on. We're doing the best we can. Thanks again, Austin Music TV. So, oh, where was it? Oh, yeah. Lee Doctari says, is it realistic to think that online shows can provide working musicians a living in the future? I would just say, go ahead.
100%. My band has been doing like a live stream every Saturday night, and if you would have told me in March that we would have found a way to exist and pay bills for never leaving my house, I would have told you. But we found a way to make it work. And honestly, I'm so thankful to everyone that tunes in, everyone that supports us. But we've absolutely found a way to continue on thriving. I think the internet is basically like an 8 billion person market, so it's just keep putting it out there. Someone's going to find it. If they like it enough, they'll share it with somebody, and then it just continues on. So yes,
I feel the same way. Money. Yeah, and I feel the same way that being open to all the different platforms and finding which ones work for you and trying new things, and one week you're doing something like and one week you're doing another, and then you have like your steady thing. I wanted you to mention again, even though we don't do calls to action on here, what we can do is if they go to your website, then they can probably find all the information that they need to know about your Saturday shows with Madame Radar, if any of these people wanted to check that out. Well, let me put that back up. Boom. Technology. So that's a good place to go for that as far. Now, I'm going to get into some of a little bit more fun. I'm going to say Betsy from Berkeley has a really cool question. And Betsy comes on every once in a while and she asks these questions. But I don't know how she knew this. I don't know if she read something that you did an interview before. But she wants to know, when you were a kid, what you wanted to be before music. I know the answer. But I think it's from like a 10 things you might not know about Kelly or something. She wanted to be a ventriloquist.
I might have a couple answers here. I started music, when I was really young, so I kind of always knew this is what I was going to do. But when I was really young, I used to want a veterinarian, and then also used to own a pizza place. So.
That's it? Now, neither of them. It said that she said that you wanted to be a ventriloquist. Is this false?
Oh my God. How did she know that?
You were going to say it? Come on. How awesome is that? I want to know about that.
I actually can't even talk using. I can just go.
Oh, you're kind of doing it.
Yeah, that was my trick when I was a kid.
Did you have a doll that you would use, or did you just,
I wanted one. I saw. I don't know. I think it was something like "Are You Afraid of the Dark" or something. Some kid TV show where they had a ventriloquist dummy, and I thought it was the coolest thing. Yeah. So I don't know how to do that.
I don't hear it enough, and I also don't think there's enough female ventriloquists out there. So you may think of a side gig.
Yeah.
Just a completely off the wall. You see, like, this gal comes out and she's a total rock star and yada yada yada, and then on like a Thursday night she goes to like Cap City Comedy and does her.
I'm thinking like right in the middle of a guitar solo, just pull out the puppet and have him sing the notes on.
Now that could be good too. I smell it.
I don't know how this person did this, but oh my God!
I smell a video in the works. It could be also. It could also be a great video. Our friend Lee Doctari a lot asks what I'm reading, because I read a lot of books, and surprisingly, a lot of them don't have pictures. But what did I just read? I'm actually reading the Stephen King book on writing right now, which is super awesome.
Interesting.
But you have this same thing that Betsy was talking about, said something about a favorite book called Illusions by Richard Bach. Is that still your favorite book?
Yeah.
Yeah.
That is my all-time favorite book.
Now, is it
I
fiction? I don't know this right.
About a pilot that just meets a guy in a field, and this guy just kind of knows secrets to the world, and it's really fascinating. One of my favorite quotes from that book is, "For your limitations, and surely they'll be yours." So for
Ooh.
me, it's like whether you say you can't or you can, you're right, and I always took that to be very true.
Ooh.
It's a really great book, and it's a very short read, and I don't know, life changing. I read it for the
I'll
first
put
time when I
that in there.
was 12 years old. Didn't understand it. Read it again at 15. Didn't understand it. Read it again at 17, and was like I
Then
felt like
you
I knew
get it.
everything.
Well, you know,
What I knew was nothing, but yeah.
well, and reading things over is it can be problematic because you grow and you change and stuff, and you go back and you're like, I don't know if I love this as much as I used to love it. But sometimes you go back and you go, oh, that's what I didn't get.
See,
Sometimes it's life
dad gave it
experience.
to me. Yeah, my dad gave it to me. It was kind of like, look, you need to read this book, and so I really wanted to understand. I just kind of kept it around, and I was just kind of like, this is about like a pilot thing. It's boring. Like some of the pages look like it has like, oil smudges from like fingers of a mechanic or something. I don't know.
Oh, the
I'll pass one on to
best.
you. I've got a couple copies.
Oh man, that'd be awesome. I'm gonna put it in here anyway because I gotta keep my
Yeah,
read list. I keep one. Go ahead.
I was just gonna say he's a great writer. I've enjoyed pretty much everything he's done. Lately, I just read a lot of books about, like, I'm reading a book about Jimi Hendrix. I just finished one on Sam. I just love reading about other musicians and really, truly reading about their struggles and how they overcome them, because not one musician has a story where they didn't have some stuff happen to them, And it's
Well, you're right
fascinating.
about that. Yeah, I used to kind of adhere to the idea that don't meet your heroes because you're going to be disappointed. Um, but I never had to worry about it too much. I only met a couple of them.
I I did get to meet Bruce Glick, who's one of my heroes.
Bruce
I was
Kulick, yeah, from Kiss.
so awkward. Yeah, he kind of looked at me like, "All right, kid," and it was a very weird moment. I kind of felt like he was an ass, but he's also like 70, and it was a very busy location, so I don't want to say that about him. But he's forever one of
Well,
my
we
favorite guitar
also,
players.
that's that one moment, right? And like I remember this kid saying to me one time, he was like, Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, that guy is such a jerk. And I said, what do you mean? And he was like, I met him when I was a kid in the airport, and my dad asked for an autograph, and he walked away. And I was like, his cat could have died that day. Give him a break, It's just
Yeah,
like
you never know.
one tiny moment in his life. That's kind of how.
I'm sure there's people that I'm evil, It's like you meet me on the wrong day. Like, I don't know, I'm pretty nice usually, especially to like strangers, but you never know. I might have somebody wrong just because I was.
You're pretty nice. You're pretty nice. You can't fake it. You can't fake it. Um, okay, so here we go. Let's do a couple more. I want to make sure we get some good questions in. Oh, again, not doing the call to action thing, but someone asked what kind of guitars you use, and I do know that you enjoy. Now, do you have an endorsement? I don't know how to do this, so it's not call to action stuff. I guess you're just, don't say it's the best or go buy it or anything like that. But you use Godin.
Yeah, I've worked with Godin for the last few years, and they've been incredibly kind
Great relationship.
to me. And yeah, we have a really good relationship. I found their guitars when I was, I think it was like 14 or 15, and I went in to do like a little studio session thing in Atlanta, and the producer on their guitars, and I was like, what is this thing? And it's one that had like EQ or something like on the actual guitar. You could kind of mess around with the way it sounded, but it was like an electric body, but it almost played like an acoustic, and it just blew my. I'd not seen anything like that up to that point, and I was young, but I remember being like, oh, like I had money saved. I want to buy this. Like, let me buy this from you. Oh, I love the guitar because it just sounded great and things. Years go by and I had forgotten, and my mother-in-law wanted to buy my husband a birthday present, so he was like, I want a new guitar. I think I want to get an electric or something, and we went down to South Austin Guitars. I don't know what it's called.
Yeah, it's
right by the Saxon. And they had this uptown hollow body, big red like jumbo with the Bigsby on it. And I was like, oh, you want this guitar? This is the guitar you want. You totally want this guitar. Look how good it
because
looks
you
on
wanted it.
I'll secretly
That's like when Homer Simpson buys the
Yeah,
bowling ball
like,
from Marge. It's when
he was
Homer
like,
Simpson Homer Simpson buys the bowling ball from Marge and it says Homer on it.
yeah,
Anyway, go on. Sorry.
that's pretty much exactly what happened. Yeah, so I ended up a guitar, long story short, and just starting them a lot of photos and tagging them and just telling them how much of a product and if they would, ever be interested in working with somebody like me. And at the time, we had a smaller following and stuff like that. And not that we have a huge following now, but we've done more things. But they've kind of just been along for the journey, and they've given me a few guitars and helped. We've raised money lines for different charities, so they'll send me a guitar to auction off to just raise money for kids with cancer or Patrice Pike Step Onward Foundation. A lot of really cool things. Yeah.
A lot of great work being done. Well, and I mean, as musicians, we don't get to give back a lot, especially when we're on our way up or staying where we are. And so being able to give our time that way, and not only does it feel good, it's just like that's how we can.
Yeah.
And so we can sometimes provide a platform, sometimes we can provide some sort of awareness, however we do it. You've taken part in things like, Plankenstein and other things like that. Like this year we got to help work for voting and voting rights and stuff like that and protection. So let's see. By the way, Joseph Livel, you mentioned Paul Zalo's book, Songwriters on Songwriting. That book is insanely cool. And I found out about that book. Yeah, I found out about it from Gary Nicholson. One time we were at Blue Rock, the studio, for some South by thing. We walked by this wall of books, and he was like, "Oh, cool." He's like, just very nonchalantly, he goes, "If you buy one book on songwriting, that's it." And I was like, "Ooh." That's kind of a big deal. So I was like, okay.
Bro, you actually changed the way I write songs too because of the show. You mentioned one time you were talking about songwriting, and you had mentioned like and going out on the bridge, and I was like, I had never done that. And but I want you to know I took that tidbit and I've written a couple of songs like that, and something I never would have thought about doing, but turned out.
That's so flattering.
Yeah.
I can only credit Stevie Wonder for that. It's a big Stevie Wonder thing, and everybody who knows me knows my biggest influence of any kind is Stevie Wonder. But like, you'll listen to a song and it'll be going along, you'll get through the climax of the song, you'll get to that big chorus at the end, and then all of a sudden it'll just go, and it'll be in minor, and it'll be like a totally different feel.
Yeah.
And be like a whole new song, and you won't want the song to end, and so it'll fade it out.
Exactly.
And you're like, oh, why did she? It's just, it's so incredible. And so I've done that a couple of times recently with Scrappy when we were working on stuff. We also like doing songs where we start with the chorus, like, don't bore us, get to the chorus, just start on it, and just kind of knowing that anything is fair game is a really, really wonderful thing. Well, thank you for saying that. That's super, super cool. I want to know which tunes.
I don't feel like I've learned quite a few things from you, Jeff. So thank you.
Aw. Well, back at you, because when we played on stage, and I mean that very, very seriously, when we played on stage together, I'm always watching your hands and like trying to pick up this or that, and I feel very mutual about it. And that's kind of the joy of what we do, too. I don't think anybody who acts like they've learned anything knows what they're talking about. You know what I mean? It's like, Randy Dees asks, was it the original Godin Acousticaster? And it sounds like the one with the volume knobs, or the volume like little faders.
Yes, that could be what I want to say 13 or 14. So I don't really remember. I just have the memory, and I just remember being like enamored by it. So it's very possible that is what it was.
I've got a really, really, really nice thing that Kim Taylor said that I'm going to say, and it says, the thing I love about Kelly and the rest of the Madame Radar band members is their authenticity. It comes across in every show, whether live or streaming. And that is a beautiful thing to say. And I don't know, there's not a lot of compliments that, all compliments, how do I say this? That's a good one. When somebody says that as
Yeah.
a musician, like you're authentic. I'm like that's one of the things I want to say when I really want to compliment somebody. Like, I can tell you really do you up there,
Yeah.
and I think
Yeah.
the
Thank you. That is
audiences
a
kind
huge
of get
compliment.
it. I don't know about you. Now, do you give uh I personally tend to give audiences a lot of credit, and sometimes I prefer the praise of somebody who doesn't play music for a living over the praise of somebody who does, because a lot of times, I mean, even if they're my contemporary, it's like, well, why did you use a diminished chord there? Whereas
Yeah.
somebody who just goes to the show goes, oh my God, I love that song, and this is why.
Yeah. Well, for me, it's like if you think about it, it's like like the ears of somebody that doesn't create music. For them, it's like you're literally making a piece of wood sing. That's incredible. And then musicians, it's like the more you know, the more you know when you mistake. And our Saturday show,
It's true.
we always watch back our show and we go through the comments and we try to be really interactive with our fans. And a lot of times they have ideas or questions or whatever, and we always try to find a way to work that into our next shows. And that's sorry, I got my phone told me it was running out of space, and I got distracted.
No worries. Again, we're all just dealing with the technology here. Well, back to the live shows.
I'm just gonna sit here and look pretty. Is it working?
Yeah, you're fine. It's still working. You got it. You got it. I'm gonna do the same. I'm gonna do the same thing.
I'm just gonna look up and maybe.
Nope, you haven't gone anywhere. It's still working for sure.
Yeah, right. Okay. Awesome. Well,
Does it say it's gonna?
Yeah.
Can you still hear me? Okay.
Yeah, I can still hear you. Yeah, sorry, my phone
Okay,
was just
cool.
like, hey, we're gonna die. I was like, no, you're not.
Well, sometimes phones just like they have their own thing. Well, we'll make sure we get through everything. Let's see, couple of things. First, real quick, thanks to Austin Music TV. Sometimes we just go off in the middle. Like I know it's 1:58 and 30 seconds or something when we end. So I always like to thank Sheila Steele. It means so much. That she gives me a little vehicle for this and to get it out to more people. We will stay online for a couple of minutes and make sure we get as many questions as we can. Now, I usually only have one question a week that is like my question that I ask people. And I do enjoy this question quite a bit. Now, you kind of answered it because my question is usually, what is your guilty pleasure music? And you kind of offered up the band Kiss. But, I mean,
I'm
whether
open
it's
to that.
Johnny Get...
If I had like a real guilty pleasure, it would be Spice Girls.
Spice Girls. Okay,
Yeah.
see, now that's freaking perfect.
And
Now,
some people are gonna
tell
laugh
me
at
what
that.
you like about Spice Girls. What do you like about them?
The girl power. It's fun to see like multiple women interacting together, and the songs are just really catchy and cheesy, and they remind me of my youth. So anytime that comes on, I'm like, let's get down. So for sure, Spice Girls.
Oh man, that's good. That's good. Well, that's exactly what I mean. And I also I wish maybe I need to come up with a bit better way to phrase it, because it doesn't have to be a guilty pleasure. It's kind of like, I think people are often surprised that people who do music for a living, like yourself or me or anybody else, like something that might be considered pop
Yeah.
or not
I have a rule about
hoity-toity.
I don't want to say it's a rule, but I in music, for me, it's like I don't care what genre it is. I don't care who is doing it. I don't even like them as an artist, but a good song is a good song. Period.
Yeah, a good
A good
song is a good
shines through
song.
every genre. A good song is a good song.
Yeah, I'm also constantly proven wrong. Like, there was a time, like, when I was, like, I don't know, 20, 21, 22, when I finally said, I can't say there's any type of music I don't like. And I remember a drummer saying, what do you mean? What are you talking about? You like everything? And I was like, well, I just haven't found it yet. And, like, right around then, there was this thing called jungle bass. And jungle bass was huge. And it was, like, really, really, really... Like, I grew up around Detroit, and so I grew up around house music, and I had a ton of hip-hop in my life. It was a big, 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 big thing, but you might not know that, right? So, but I didn't like any jungle music, but I was just like, it's going to happen someday. I'm going to hear one, and I'm going to be like, Okay,
Yeah.
I love that. Or dubstep or something like that.
Yeah.
And eventually it always ends up happening where somebody surprises me or I go, yeah, I love that, you know. And I also don't feel bad about not liking something that's really popular because
Yeah.
whatever.
Yeah. Same.
If we all like the same thing. By the way, Doctari says, "Oh my God, or OMG, the greatest guilty pleasure answer ever." That might, I mean, honestly, Spice Girls might be the best guilty pleasure, besides my own, of course, which is that I'm a Fanalo,
Yeah.
and that I am a Barry Manilow closet freak. Yeah, I know,
Okay.
I know, it's
That's
weird.
yeah.
I didn't have a choice. It was like when I was a kid, my mom would play Barry Manilow, and like I just remember being a kid and like dancing on the bed and being like, you know, her name was Lola. She is a show dressed up down there. And I couldn't. And then Ready to Take a Chance Again, or Can't Smile Without You, you know, and like
That's good. I love it. I wouldn't have picked you
whatever.
for a Manilow fan, but
Yeah, it's sad. My wife won't let me play it when she's around, but there's only so much.
yeah.
Okay, so we're almost about to go off. I will say one more time, thank you, Kelly Green, so much. Let me do a couple other things before we go off on the television. Here is information for Madam Radar. Kelly Green is guitar player, singer, songwriter, big part of the band. Someday, when I have the technology, I will have the whole band on because I love the band.
Yeah.
And we'll figure out how to do that somehow with a split screen. I'm sure the technology is coming. And I want to thank Sheila Steele and Austin Music Television for giving us the opportunity to do this every week. And we really appreciate you on Austin Music TV as well. So in the next 30 seconds or so, we're gonna pop out. Do you still have your guitar right there?
I do.
Grab it. If you don't mind, can I poke it and say grab it? You want to just play like 30 seconds so people get to hear just anything. I don't care what it is. It might be a little gargled with our thing too, but just maybe something you're working on. Perfect. You just took us out. That was perfect. You took us out. We got a nice little rock and roll on the way out. Thanks everybody for being here. Sorry about the weird sound today. It was
It was
always
just
funny.
awesome in one spot.
There was two. Oh, I like that. Since we're offline right now and we can do calls to action, I really, really, really want everybody to go to Spotify and check out MadamRadar.com. When you guys go to Spotify and check them out, they're on that playlist that we put in the links to. Anytime you guys go to Spotify, make sure you hit follow on your band and make sure you hit a couple of songs and save songs. That's really what Spotify looks at. So if you've got some people that you really want to help them boost their numbers, that's what they're looking for. And share any playlists that have those people on it. And also I want you to make sure that you check out their regular Saturday night shows now in Central Texas time, Central Time Zone. What time are the shows?
7 p.m.
7 p.m. on Saturdays
Every
for everybody.
single Saturday. That's right.
Nice. Mark says following. I love seeing that. Oh, Joe Friedman asked a quick question that's probably an easy thing to answer. What guitar pick do you use? Are you a medium, a heavy, a light?
Medium, yeah, I like a little give, but I like it also to, hold. But I love Dunlop, the little turtle.
Tortex?
Yeah, Tortex, that's the one.
Yeah, I love the Tortex too. We all just, it got to the point where I knew a couple of guys in Japan that would get like tortoise shell for us when we were in Nashville. Bluegrassers all used it. And then I was like, this is endangered kind of for a reason. So I'm not going to do that anymore.
Yeah.
But Tortex is a great sound. Great question. Okay, let's see. Am I missing anything else? No, we got that one. We got what kind of guitars? Changing the music. Started playing guitar. Huge Kiss fan. weird pig obsession. We didn't talk about your weird pig obsession.
I do love them.
You have a weird pig obsession? Okay. Well, pigs are smart and cute. So, got your favorite book. Love to cook. All right. All right. Well, I can't thank you enough. Oh yeah, what I forgot to say was now that we're offline, thanks again everybody who gives tips. I always split the tips with my guest, and it's nice to have a little extra something. Just for gas money and stuff like that. And you guys are keeping us alive during this time, and we really, really thank you for that. Oh,
Yeah,
Stu McCullough says the Saturday extravaganza is the best thing going on in live streams.
Thank you.
Well, Stu, we'll thank you, but you haven't seen me play solo in my living room on Tuesday nights in front of a bookcase. Anyway. Yes, Daktari. I don't mind answering that question at all. He asked. He said about voice care. If you got 2 more minutes, because this is a great question. He said we were talking a little bit about taking care of our voices, but he said hand care. Like, do you take care of your hands? And I personally do. And I got to learn from my big brother was a guitar player. 5 years older than me. I was always John's little brother who plays guitar too. Like, oh, you're John's little brother? You play? Oh, that's great.
Yeah.
And but he got carpal tunnel, and so I got to learn a ton of things that are really, really good for your hands. Like, he used to always say the Groucho Marx thing, like, Doc, it hurts when I do this. Well, then don't do that. And so, like, you know, we think as guitar players we're supposed to, like, get really strong, and it's not true. You're supposed to find a light touch and put your hand the right way, and, you know, when somebody's sliding around, they're not going like this.
Yeah.
You know, they've learned how to hold the guitar correctly, and being loose being the huge part of it. But do you have any things that you do for kind of keeping your wrists in your hand and things like that?
Yes. Because I'm very in my hands. I'm also an artist and I love cooking, so it's always stuff in my hands. But I watched an interview with Nina Strauss from Alice Cooper. She's another guitar player, but she went into the importance of hand care, and she actually showed a few stretches, which I feel like everyone should know. So I'm glad to show this. One is reach up forward like you're holding up a stop sign, and then you take that and move it to the side, still like you're holding a stop sign, like you're going to stop somebody, and then tilt your head to the opposite side, and that stretches. Oh wait, which way am I going? Yeah, that stretches.
Oh, I love this
tendon
one.
that goes all the way up. Yeah, and I do that on each hand. And you can move your arm around, move your hand around, and you know the wrist thing. But always stop to the front, stop to the side, turn your head. And if you do that at home, I swear you'll feel that from your finger all the way up to your neck. It is.
Well, because we do feel it here.
Well,
big time.
Honestly, that's one of the tendons that musicians will hurt the most. So I recommend that for every musician, drummers, guitar players.
That's a brilliant one. One of my favorites that my brother showed me was this. He said you take both of your hands and you put them together by the fingertips. And he said, now don't stretch until it hurts. He's like, but if you just push your fingertips together just a little bit, and not like that, but just the fingertips only. He's like, what happens is all of a sudden the blood starts flowing all the way through. And he's like, if you want to loosen up, he's like, do that for 30 seconds. You'll be able to play another hour.
Love it.
And I really love that one too, and I've been using it for 20 years as just a way of like, if I feel sore, I stop. I don't try and power through it, you know?
100%. Yeah, stretches are super important.
Yeah. Cool. Well, who knew it? We were going to get into the hand yoga thing. Kelly, this has been awesome.
Thank you so much. Yeah. Thank you, everyone watching.
I look forward. Yeah, it's really, really great to have you. Let me see who my guest is next week, because I always forget to say that. Next week, I have Eric Betancourt. That's going to be really fun.
Awesome.
And then Scott Strickland, then Johnny Gowdy, then Gary Nicholson. And then in the new year, the very first show will be Kevin Russell, a.k.a. Shiny Ribs. So, nobody good wants to do the show. Sorry, my sarcasm doesn't come off like sarcasm. I'm so lucky. And this was really, really fun. You stay on with me, and I'm going to say goodbye to everybody.
Awesome.
Thank you, everybody online. Thanks for the tips. Thanks for following us on Spotify and all those other things. Kelly Green, you and Madam Radar are awesome.
Thank you, Jeff. Right back at you.
Okay, bye.